right, we're good. All right, welcome everybody. I am going to call the Moab City Council meeting to order on Tuesday, March 10th, 2026 at 5:30. We're starting early today because we were going to have a workshop on our strategic plan to review what we talked about in January and also to talk about what we accomplished last year, what we're going to roll over, and what we talked about in January, and kind of come up with some priorities. And then we're going to go right into the workshop. Today, we're going to be looking at the water budget, the sewer budget, and the public safety budget. So we'll just get started. And Alexi, you're up.
Okay. This again.
I was gonna say, is there a pledge?
Are you saying
The Pledge of Allegiance. Sorry. It's your turn.
It is my turn.
But I don't want you to hurt yourself.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks for the reminder. I guess I got a little thrown off because we're doing a
Got a lot of work to do.
So maybe next time we'll do the workshop and then the pledge. It seems like you want to say. All right.
Oh, you're good. Okay. Get started. To kind of, my thought for this is essentially to look a little bit at what we have from last year, so we can look at what we want to do next year. So quick update on the current strategic plan. This is where we stand with things that are in waiting, that are in progress, and that are already complete. And then I have a short list below these of things that fit in the categories of our top 5 goals that came up after last year's strategic plan that are either in the works or complete as well, such as the ballpark or working on the street lights, some of those things. To be clear, this isn't everything that's happened this year. These are the things that are related to the strategic plan in particular. Okay, so we're not done with this fiscal year. We still have some things coming up, including some things that are on the agenda tonight. Also some more work on Walnut Lane, the mat. There's some things that have been started that are just going to be continuing, like the contract has been signed for the sidewalk work. It started. Some of this locations have already been fixed, and then that will continue. So that's where we are with this year's strategic plan. And then the goal tonight is to look at the priorities that we have from the January sessions. Michael and I combined our notes. We tried to collect what we heard you say. It's possible some things didn't make it in here. We want to make sure we have the priorities right. And then from there to distill it to the things that are at the top of the list for the coming year. One of the things we did working on last year's strategic plan was to try to narrow down the goals to the top 5 and then try to be very effective at those things. And I think we've done a pretty good job of trying to deliver on those top 5 goals. And hopefully through the process tonight, looking at budget priorities, available resources, we can come up with the things that we really want to deliver on this year. And I'll work on putting those in a strategic plan and bring that back to you. Okay, so this is the framework we've been working in from the Tomorrow Together vision. We have the pillars. Last year, we added preparedness, which includes our goal on mitigating natural hazards. There are 5 goals within these. Based on conversations, there is a possibility of moving some things around. We heard a lot of things that were in the pillar for leadership and decision-making or achieving practical, accountable, and responsive governance. So that'll come at the end of this to discuss a little bit about how that belongs in the strategic plan. Okay, we're starting with downtown. I'm including last year's goals. Some of these have more continuation than others. We can discuss that as we go. Last year, there were some things, a lot of them related to transportation. I put those on a kind of long transportation list on the active transportation goal. And then there were a few other things in here too. And related to like our lighting, things like that, and continuing our work with UDOT. This year, what we have in this category is some discussions about enhancing the downtown experience, considering whether we want a gateway on the north end, continuing waste receptacle replacements. I'd be interested to hear if there were other things that you thought belonged in this category, or how high of a priority the things that we've identified are for this year.
You want it now?
Yeah, let's go ahead and just go right through. I want to get your thoughts on this, so I feel like maybe we can just discuss them one goal at a time.
I would like to see the continuation of sidewalk improvements.
Mm-hmm. And I do have that also kind of in the transportation section.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that affect transportation and downtown, and a little bit outside downtown, but noted.
Should also, so are the fiscal year 26, are those moving over to just with crosswalks beyond?
Yes and no. So there's some things on here that are going to be really hard to ever check off as totally complete, like implementing the road safety audit. It is possible at some point we will have implemented every last recommendation. At this point, we're pursuing them, like improving lighting for safety. A lot of the transportation goals fall into that category. So that one, the next one, we're not going to stop working with UDOT at some point. So some things definitely are rolling over. I think sidewalk, crosswalks, there's some things that I anticipate that you probably do want to continue, and that we did some chunk of this year, but it isn't like useful to us to know if at some point we achieved that goal or good enough and there's something else that's moved to the top of the list.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it. I just pulled up my strategic planning notes. I think one thing that sticks out that we talked about was kind of like doing more business engagement downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Probably would be best in here. I'm not sure. And then, yeah, you said sidewalks, right? Crosswalks,
Yeah.
sidewalks.
And it's in there, continuously meet.
Yeah.
property.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, business engagement.
Okay.
And then probably even continued enforcement,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
safety.
And that will also make an appearance when we get to active transportation, but I'm taking notes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments on downtown?
I think this all looks really good. I'm a little slow, but I'm still a little unclear what the ask is. This does look like it's very representative of what we talked about in the.
Yeah, I think something in here that would be helpful to discuss is how high of a priority is, for example, having the north entry, and what exactly would that look like if we put that as a goal?
Right. And I think that's something that I brought up at strategic planning. And so what I was considering is just that I think that we've sort of been talking about downtown as just, a 2 or 3 block area. And I would like to see that expanded. And so we're talking about more of a system that, as people are coming into town, that they're, understanding where they're coming into, and they see the care that they're going to experience when we get downtown, initially when they cross the bridge. And so, I would think that that's, to me, just simply beautification and traffic calming and some other measures that are, a lot of which are pretty achievable, pretty financially. I think this is all really wonderful. And what comes to mind for me with all of this is we're talking about some engagement with business owners. And I see this wonderful, sort of a branding of our efforts downtown right here that we can take to people and say, hey, this is what we're working on, how we're, this is our goals. And so I think that this guides that process really well.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking about this too in terms of we're looking at from the current fiscal year, working on kind of merging all of our things that we have downtown to have kind of this a more updated downtown plan, because we had the previous one and the RSA and some of those things. So at this point, that looks like it's probably a dust study. And it could happen in this fiscal year, but that could inform this as a goal in the strategic plan. It's like once we have more of a compilation of our previous planning efforts, then it might be helpful towards implementing this sort of welcome on the north side.
I just asked you a question about or just a clarification. So it sounded like what you were talking about is just consider the highway north of town and its cleanliness, beautification, it's, you know, getting the, you know, mud cleaned up when the rains come down, all those types of things, just continuing to do all those things. And then also considering what we can do as well to beautify. We're not necessarily talking about a monument or a
No, not at all.
sign or
Not at all.
anything like that.
I'm talking about when people drive, and you're absolutely right. Yeah, I'm talking about when people drive in that they know as soon as they cross the bridge into the city that we care about our downtown, we care about our community. We you know, we're giving them all the signals to slow down and appreciate what they're seeing, and then, you know, hopefully that carries. You know, I think that for me, an issue that we're experiencing downtown is that you know, the transition into our downtown area is very abrupt. And so we have this sort of thoroughfare, you know, with this 4-lane, you know, that we've tried to limit it with speeds. And then all of a sudden it sort of dumps them into this very pedestrian centric downtown. I think that we could do a better job of just, you know, showing our pride in our downtown and really, yeah, showcasing. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like for me, even these two, I think as a theme, probably focusing on beautification, because I think there's maybe even more. Also thinking about like, who knows what opportunities with corporate sponsorship or like other things along those lines. But yeah, I'm excited to keep in that direction.
Great. Okay. And so would you like, Alexi, would you like us to talk to you all about I guess what these two already did about the priorities for all of us? Do you want to hear that, or is that helpful information? What else can we help you with?
Yeah. What I'm thinking right now is that this probably will be grouped into something that's beautification goals or something to that effect. And then information that we get, or like you said, sponsorships or anything else that comes in the future will kind of fit into that grouping of things.
Yeah.
Kind of thinking that I needs to be reworded. Consider the north entry and plans to welcome people as they enter Moab. More
I
of a
was thinking the same thing.
beautification.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
now we have a better idea what, yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
welcome, you know, we've got that, so I think that would be helpful.
Yeah. I think we
Yeah.
And in terms of your idea that we talked about in engaging our downtown businesses, it seems like when we finalize that downtown plan or get it closer, that would be the time, you know, when we have something to share,
Yeah.
you know, with our businesses, that we would engage them, bring them in.
Yeah.
At like a town hall or,
Yeah, and
those lines.
we've definitely talked about some concepts about doing that. And we'll continue to do that. And I think we do have it coming up in outreach and stuff like that. It kind of carries over to that. But as far as prioritization goes, I think the fact that it's in the top 5, or did we do 6 now? Is that?
We have 5 from last time, and then there's a potential one that we could add that could be 6, or
That we'll get
it's
to
flexible. Yeah.
right after 5, right? So the fact that it is showing up under number 1 downtown means it's a priority. So
Got it. Okay. That makes sense.
Let's move on to the next one.
Okay. Thanks, Alexi.
Okay. Walnut Lane and housing. This one, I think is going to be redirected a little bit to be broader about housing and not just Walnut Lane. Some of the things for Walnut Lane are going to roll over because working on that site and asbestos abatement and other things have delayed timeline on some of last year's goals. So some of the Walnut Lane things will roll over, and then we also heard a discussion about housing workshops or a workshop that includes some of the following topics. On this one, I'm interested in if this encompasses what you were thinking, but also how specific did you want to be about the workshop topics? Is that something that needs to be in the strategic plan, or is it something that should be developed when they're scheduled, like by current interest?
That's a great question. I'm gonna pull up, so we have kind of a housing subcommittee that we've met a few times, and so I think some of those came from that. So I think this encompasses several of those, but I would love for that to be in a little more alignment. And I know that Johanna and Corey have talked to you guys about task force coming and kind of having that discussion.
Yeah, and I kind of grouped all these together. When I did my draft of what came out of the meeting, these were in different places, but I was like, well, if it is a workshop that you want to do, why not try and knock out a lot of these discussions at the same time? And I think it could work. Because you have all the people here taking the time to do it, might as well talk about it in as much depth as possible.
Yeah.
Looking quickly at that list that we came up with is AEH, deed restriction administration, Walnut Lane disposition, supporting chapter 17 updates, doing a pipeline analysis, kind of other stuff. So, but yeah, I know that Corey's working on a housing toolbox.
Okay.
I guess one question I have now that I'm looking at this is that, are we, by sponsor a housing workshop, the way I was looking at it was the council would hold a workshop as the council.
That's what I was.
Right.
Is that
I think that's the plan with the
okay?
task
Mhm.
force.
Okay.
And I guess, for me, maybe rather than, I love the first one, just housing priorities, because I think that, first we sort of establish what this year's council priorities are based on the greater, housing environment. And then maybe that would inform what the future, workshops are, as we sort of zero in on different things. Okay, one thing we want to do is have like whatever the project were, whatever one of our priorities would be, and then that would inform maybe the next. Is that helpful? I thought you were asking.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Should I move this to something a little bit more like to discuss current housing priorities, something like specifying that it's the council doing it and that it's in collaboration with the task force? Would that cover?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then beyond that, Caitlin, do you want does the housing toolbox and do some of those things belong in this category?
I think so. Yeah, which I guess we would discuss at a housing workshop to set kind of those action priorities.
Okay.
Because I guess also reading this, I see two different, like, I think we should have housing workshops for our priorities, but I think also I'd love to advocate for the city supporting or sponsoring community-wide housing conversations with the task force, or like in partnership with. I guess another one that we've talked about a bit with the impact fee program is how to keep funding the housing fund.
Oh, yeah, and review the policy. That's
Mhm.
something
Yeah,
that you guys
review.
are able to do, is to review that policy.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll keep the housing workshops in there, add housing toolbox and other community engagement activities, and reviewing the impact fee policy. Anything else? Okay. Active transportation, this one is a long list of things. So we've discussed a few of them, like keep going with crosswalks, sidewalk fixes, uh, traffic calming. So what we have in this category includes some things that are underway, like the SS4A grant, which is a complete streets policy, and then looking at different kinds of options on Mill Creek, Spanish Valley, and Spanish Trail. Then it was also brought up to discuss downtown street parking. Okay, I'm seeing nods. Flood repair damage, to continue to work with that on our trails. Bulb outs, a lot of these are just continuing things that we're doing. Then beyond that, we have working to secure funding for MAT, and then traffic enforcement, which was also previously brought up. Is this missing anything that would be a high priority?
Does the downtown street parking belong in the downtown one? Is that, I mean,
It could be.
and we
Yeah.
want to be discussing with business owners down there and
Okay.
having a conversation. Yeah.
So we can move that one to downtown.
A lot of things fit in 2 boxes, but I think having
Yeah.
input from the business owners downtown is crucial to that one.
Yeah. And that one does not extend beyond our downtown area.
I'm wondering about cleanup and flood repair damage also. Could be in our hazard. Don't we have another,
We do have a natural hazard mitigation.
is that part of it though?
It is. It is. I think this one was just specific to how it affected the
Trails.
path.
Mhm, Mill Creek.
That's, I believe that's
Parkway.
exactly what it was. And so maybe we should add path on that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think if we're gonna talk about like Mill Creek and paths, you know, we've done a lot downtown to kind of make that path more inviting, adding lighted bollards, stuff like that. There are definitely some very dark, kind of uninviting sections of path throughout town, and I think it might be
Yeah, well
worth
said.
moving
Mhm.
towards that.
Okay.
Yeah, enhancing pathway safety.
Yeah.
Pathway safety, like if we're gonna make the crosswalk safer and we're gonna encourage the path, we might as well lean into that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Good
it's
idea.
questionable. We're looking at a pilot.
Anything else?
Everything else.
All the transportation. Okay, implementing plans. This is a kind of a continuation. We always have plans that need to be implemented. These are some of the ones that could be potentially coming up in the next fiscal year, including continuing the ballpark planning, the MRAC facility. I think that structure evaluation is coming to completion now. But then there's kind of this next step of the Swanee Park master plan, which is also related to the skate park, which has come up in discussions. Beyond that, we've talked about pesticide use and the way we maintain our grounds. So that could be related to an integrated pest management plan. And then we also heard discussion about low water landscapes. And again, that kind of gets to the way we maintain our facilities. Anything else? Or does that include what you were thinking? Or does something not belong on that list?
It doesn't include what I'm thinking,
Okay.
other than I don't know if I guess I would put maybe the general plan. I know general plan could fit into update old and create new master plans, but I just think that that's gonna be such an important piece of all this. And so I would almost give it its own.
A general plan update.
Mhm.
Okay. I can add that. Any other thoughts? Okay. Natural hazard mitigation. A lot of this is some things that are rolling over, some things were already completed in the last year. The stormwater master plan is going to start this fiscal year, but the planning will continue into the next fiscal year. And then from there, we will have more information about things that we need to plan for. We don't know what those are yet, but they will probably be coming up in the next fiscal year. A lot of flood mitigation projects will also be continuing. Are there any other specific projects or thoughts that people had for this section?
I know to some degree, there's been a lot of discussion about fire preparedness and
Yeah.
about, we made some decisions in regards to WUI and all that kind of stuff, but said we would then define corridors within our own city that may, require a city code built around or a policy built around wildfire mitigation. So I feel like that should end up in hazard mitigation.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, we'll add fire preparedness in here. Anything else? Okay. So this one is a possibility. There's some discussion, I think, around how this belongs in the plan, but there were a lot of things that came up in strategic planning related to making sure our city policies were clear and accessible, that we were doing public outreach in the way the council was envisioning it to make sure that we're getting information out there. The budget workshops were a part of that discussion, and then also opportunities for staff and council to connect with residents, which is probably related to updating the public outreach plan. This could be more of a methods thing, like the way we are implementing the strategic plan, or it could be a separate goal. It does fall under one of our pillars. I'm interested in your thoughts on this.
No, I like it being on there.
Do you want it in here as a separate goal, or should this be more of a how we implement the other 5?
I think it's how we implement the other 5.
Okay, so one place I could put this is the way the strategic plan is structured right now, right? There's some kind of introduction about how we got to this year's strategic plan. It could become kind of part of that introductory information and specifically describe like how to implement the following 5 goals. A lot of that will be similar year to year, and this could be something that we could add. Last year, we were talking about how we restructured the plan. This year, we could talk more about the communication and the responsive governance aspects of it. Does that work?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of wondering if this fits into the implement plans, whether it's
Mhm.
not just implement, but implement and communicate. Because a lot of this is, it's touching on a lot of the same things. It's just like that final step of like communicating out.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, I don't know.
I can put it in both places, and like we could make it a little more concrete and adding it to the implementing plan section, and then we can also kind of include it in the beginning as things that are different about this plan. Okay, are there any other thoughts about things that belong in the next version of the strategic plan? Any final discussion points? Okay,
We're good. We'll see what you come up with and then we'll change everything the next meeting.
well, no, you'll see a formatted final version to review for the next city council meeting. And I believe on our schedule, that would be the first opportunity to adopt it. Of course, if it's not showing exactly what you want, you don't have to adopt it, but that'll be when you see the full formatted plan. Thank you.
Good job, Lexi.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Alexi. That was great.
Yeah.
That was really good. Now, remember, purpose of this review is to help guide the budget process. So when you're looking at numbers and the budget, think about what we've just done.
Okay, thanks for the.
Next up, we have the actual budget workshop. So this is the first budget workshop that we've done in a public setting, so I'm excited about that. I think this is great. Like I mentioned, we have sewer, water, and public safety. Danny is here with each department head to kind of explain the benefit and HR component, personnel component. And then, Obi's here to talk more about water and sewer, the specifics of his budget. And Michael's here for
Well, I've got a presentation too, so I'll start things off.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about just some overview of things where we are at this point in the year, because I think it's good to have a context as we go into talking about budgets, what things look like as an overview as well. Won't get into too much detail, but at least you can kind of see where we think we are. Talk about personnel overall really quick, and then we'll get into the budget presentations. So the first thing I want to talk about is the end of year. Revenues are trending higher. I think I've pretty much told everybody that. I'll show you some graphs in just a minute where you can see kind of where we were when we had our workshop for the strategic plan. Kind of we had a little bit of a dip, and I kind of gave you a grim outlook, and then what's happened since then. Expenditures are down. We have a practice of doing an end of year estimate each year. I've asked all the department heads to do an end of year estimate to show where they're going to end. This is mainly to see what things are going to roll over to next year. So this is kind of the carry forward of things that weren't finished last year, projects, plans, things like that. Non-specific items like office supplies and things like that. Those things just roll into the general fund and then roll over to the next year, not specifically back to their office fund or something like that. But it's looking pretty good. I don't want to give numbers right this second, but I do think everyone's done a really good job of saving and not spending where they don't have to. And then also with the increase in revenues based on increased visitation over the winter, I think we're doing pretty well. So we still have a few months to go though. So fund balances are doing well. Just giving you a snapshot of what they look like at the end of the last fiscal year. Some of these have grown since then. Some of these will be drawn down just a little bit. When you look at the enterprise funds, it looks like a lot of money. Well, the enterprise funds still owe some money to the general fund for CIP and things like that have come out of our PTIF account in the general fund that now need to be paid back by these enterprise funds. So those transfers are going to happen. It's not going to decimate these things by any means, but we should see the general fund go up a little bit and the water, sewer, and stormwater go down just a little bit, mainly water and sewer. But still looking really healthy. I thought you'd be interested to see what RAP tax looks like. We transferred $1.2 million at the beginning of this fiscal year, and we brought in another $248,000 since then. And we're looking pretty good on the collections for the RAP tax. This is the graph I was telling you about. The orange line is this fiscal year that we're in right now. So if you look at September, we had a dip. The blue line is last year. So as we compare month to month, you can see some months are up, some months are down. But since November, everything's been up. We've been trending high. We've seen some, and this is sales, resort, and TRT, the main taxes that are influenced by visitation. But we've seen some months where we're 30% higher than we were the month before or the year before across the board. Going forward, it's hard to estimate what's going to happen, but if we put a conservative increase on that, I do think we end up. Ran this a bunch of different ways, but if we do a conservative increase, not a 30% increase, but a conservative increase, things are looking pretty good at going forward in the spring. We've got some big events coming up. We've got 60 years of Easter Jeep Safari, or Jeep sponsoring Easter Jeep Safari or being part of it. They're planning a lot of different things. I think will bring a lot of people to town specifically for this year's event. A lot of different things going on. We're going to end the year, if all those things happen, we're going to end the year a bit higher, which you add up all of those increases, and it's a significant amount of money. Again, I don't want to jinx us by saying anything, but we are looking pretty good there, and that only helps us going into next year. So that was I have a couple other things to talk about. I want to talk about personnel overall. So overall in city, the entire city, when you look at everything in the city, Danny and I have looked at this, and we've gone through everything, and the overall increase of the salary for everyone in the city is 5.42%. We think that's pretty conservative. We've done some things to try and get it down. We're going to talk about the salary freeze for the highly compensated employees and things like that. But with salary increases that are planned for merit increases at 3.75% and a COLA, which is proposed at 2.8%, which is consistent with what's going on with the federal government and everything. We're less than what that would add up to be if you just added those two numbers together. And that has a lot to do with the freeze. Benefits, that's actually wrong. Benefits increase is about 10%, but overall increase for benefits and salaries is 7.1%. Benefits did go up this year. Benefits, when we talk about benefits in that line item, we're talking about health insurance, we're talking about URS, Utah Retirement System contributions and things like that. Danny will talk about this when we get to each of the departments and give you kind of an overview of what it looks like for each department. But overall, it went up about 10%. And the overall increase for these two line items throughout the entire city is 7.1%. So let's talk about the savings from the freeze on salaries for the next 2 years for highly compensated employees. And I have to say that because this is not for everybody. Look at the graphic. It's only the people on the top that are circled, because that's what this freeze is for. Right now, it's 8 people. It could be as many as 13, but it does net some pretty big savings. Over the first 2 years, we will save somewhere around $300,000 by doing this. And as you know, one of the reasons to do this is to slow down the compounding effect. But what we're also doing is we're allowing for these savings to compound year over year over year, and they will continue to compound even after we stop the freeze. And after 5 years, as compared to what we would have spent without the freeze, we will save $1 million just by doing this freeze for 2 years. And that will continue and reverberate and go throughout time. But I just wanted to bring this up to show you that there definitely are things in place trying to slow down the growth of salaries, but also give the opportunities for people who are just starting out to continue to grow and move into higher positions without having to worry about being frozen out or freezing hiring or anything like that. So that's pretty much what I wanted to go over. Not a lot to discuss in this section, just some overview. We'll go ahead and get into the department budgets. I want to just say really quick, the department budgets, these are not final. In fact, Obi's going to talk about it in just a minute, but we did make some changes today to his budget. He'll talk about those things, but mainly it was for the overhead. The overhead was not added in the budget that we put out, so we added that in. Things still look really good, but we're not looking for approval tonight. We're not even making a recommendation. We're here to talk to you about the numbers that we have at this point, and we've got a few more meetings to go before we get to the point where we're making recommendations. So turn it over to Obi and to Danny.
Michael, can I ask one question
Sure.
about that? Is the freeze, the 2 times the AMI, is that for wages or wages and benefits?
Wages.
Wages. Okay, thank you.
Was the only one that AI wouldn't change, so it's really plain. Yeah, so right up front, we added some overheads, what the enterprise funds pay to the general fund for all the services that like engineering and Danny and everybody else provides to the enterprise funds, right? And so we added that into both departments. We also took out some of the plans. We're looking at redoing, updating some of our master plan for water and sewer. And those were taken out and moved to capital. Did you send them that spreadsheet or no?
No, we just go over it here. It will be updated a couple more times, I think, but we can just go over it. And capital is where those plans belong anyways. It's just moving them to where they belong.
So starting with the water division, so you see at the top there, the two actuals for 2024 and 2025. 2024 looks so low because for whatever reason in 24, we didn't pay overhead payments, or at least it's not on the slides that I had. If you add in a comparable amount of overhead payment, 24 would have come to 1,896,000.
Yeah.
So the actuals for 2024 were higher than the actuals for 2025. Then the approved budget and then the requested budget. Our requested budget is about a $215,000 increase over last year's approved budget. The majority of that is coming from salaries, benefits, and depreciation. If you take those three out, the increase is about $7,700. But overall, it's a 11% increase. But it's a 0.4% increase when you take out salaries, benefits, depreciation. So a really slight increase over last year. Some of the bigger line items that that went up this year, office supplies went up about 300%. That's us moving sample shipping from where it was into office supplies. We got, or I got some guidance. So we're trying to align with the guidance for each line item to make sure everything's the same across the city. Professional technical went up about 66%. Most of that is a new fee from the Division of Drinking Water. And special departmental supplies went up about 21%. And that's primarily just the increased cost of parts. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, so to touch on salary and benefits, one of the things that I want to point out before we get into this, because you're going to see some benefit numbers that raise and some that go down. A lot of that's out of our control. So a lot of it, what happens with benefits is when we budget for an open position, we budget for the highest benefit load that may come in. Once we have an employee in that position, we budget what that employee's status is at that time. And those statuses can change throughout the year. So we may have budgeted for a single, got married, took on a family later, may budget for a family, got divorced, and now is a single. And we don't really have control over that, but the cost of benefits between a single and a family are significant, right? So you're going to see some of those changes, and a lot of that is what this is from. In water specifically, salaries did go up about 13.37%. This increase was due to a correction of a salary calculation error that we had on an employee from the previous fiscal year. We did expect to be about 6.5–7% is kind of what our normal increase is going to be based on COLA and merit alone. There is no employee in this department that is frozen, so I'll point out which departments do have frozen employees and which also will lower what their percentage is. 25.77 for benefits. This is due to a little bit to that salary correction, but the most of it was change in benefit status. So that's kind of where we fall on that.
Danny, there's a slight increase in the cost of benefits too.
We're expecting, yes, thanks, Michael. We're expecting about a 10% is about what our average increase should be between the dental and the health insurance increases that we received this year. So anything above that is where you're going to see me point out that there's an increase or a decrease is based on those standard numbers.
All right, moving on to sewer, where you have about a 10.9% increase over last year's budget. Again, 24, there was no overhead payment. If that was like a comparable overhead payment, it would have been in the $2,385,000 range, which is quite a bit less than 25. We got an additional employee at the WRF, and I believe that is where that cost, that increase is coming from. The difference between what we're requesting and what was approved last year is about $300,000. The vast majority of that is coming from depreciation, which is $350,000. For some reason, depreciation went up a lot in that.
It did. Depreciation, we're basing it on the figures that we get from our auditors. And so all we can do is take the monthly amount and multiply that out for 12 months, and it ends up being more in the coming year than it is in this year. So, and we explained the whole depreciation thing. It actually never leaves the account. It doesn't ever get paid. It just is shown as an expense.
And so if you take out salaries, benefits, and depreciation, there's actually a $117,000 decrease in sewer fund this year, which is about a 4% reduction from last year. Some changes, again, office supplies went up significantly because of sample shipping being moved from other to office supplies. The WRF sent a lot of samples off. It's a fairly sizable expense. Utilities went up about 54%. That was us moving sludge hauls from professional technical to utilities. I just felt like it fit better as a utility than it did as like a professional technical service. Building supplies and maintenance, there's about a 300% increase. Some of these are actually not that much. Building supplies and maintenance went up about 4,500. But that's a 300% increase. We have to do some HVAC upgrades at the treatment plant. I will note that collections, all of those were at the WRF. So sewer is the treatment plant, and collections outside of salaries, because benefits actually went down in collections. There were no increases for any line items.
So to break up the salaries and benefits for these two departments. So with the WRF, there was a slight increase in salaries that was due to an off-cycle increase or promotion. There is one employee that is frozen in the WRF budget. As far as benefits of WRF, they did go up by 10.77%. That is expected at the 10%. The, little bit, the 0.77 is going to be relative to the increase in the salary. Do you want me to go through sewer too? Do you have any other slides? Or are we good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So sewer collections itself, salaries went up by 10.3%. So this is kind of a larger increase. It again is due to off-cycle salary increase promotion. The sewer benefits, this is where it kind of gets a little weird, actually went down by 1.53%, and that was due to benefit status changes. So this is where I was kind of talking about, you're going to see some that are going up and then some are going down.
All right, and I was just going to touch briefly on capital projects. I know they're going to go through the whole capital projects at the next meeting. So we won't get into real in-depth on these, but we want to update the master plan in both water and sewer. That's pretty important. We're going to do some upgrades on the existing water tanks. This is mostly painting and adding some safety features. The SCADA upgrades will continue. We should have this mostly done this year, but it'll probably drag on into next year a little bit. And then hopefully we have that new water tank designed by the end of next year. There's also some road projects that will probably have some water stuff. I didn't put those on here. You'll hear about those at the next meeting. And yes, hey, I didn't like this one either. So questions?
Question for Obi or Danny?
Of course I do. I did have a question. I flagged, I guess I'm wondering, I think I understand, but can you describe what a sledge haul is?
Sure. So at the treatment plant, we have two products. One is clean, the treated water that goes to the river. The other is the pressed dried sludge, which is like basically the dead bodies of the bacteria that treated the water, and that has to be hauled to the dump. And that it's that in that number is both tipping fees at the landfill and charges for like the actual driving it there, all to monument waste.
Thanks.
Or not waste, whatever it is now, Canyonlands.
Solid waste
Solid-
district.
Yes,
There
thank
we
you.
go.
Yeah.
Thanks. And then this might be one of the master plan things. So I was wondering about the special departmental 600, 546.
Is that one that you moved stuff out of?
Yeah, I was wondering if that was one of the,
This one is in sewer or water?
Yeah, which
this is sewer.
you're
Right.
wondering why it went down so much?
No, I'm wondering why special departmental went up from 95 to 130,000.
In the WRF,
The 95 is only is only the actual of what we spent. We actually budgeted 120 for this year and we expected to get up to that. Or wait, let me take a look here, actually.
So-
That is all we spent for that year. I can look at your thing if you want. So it looks like the biggest thing is for consumables, polymer, chlorine, and flocculant. That's $95,000 just for those things.
Right, so that is like special departmental supplies. I was just curious what that kind of category.
Yeah, so the polymer is what we use, you mix polymer with the sludge so that it'll, dewater correctly. Flocculant, is what will settle out the treatment plant, and, the chlorine is what we treat it with when it's, acting up. Lab supplies are a high one in that, and special departmental supplies, yeah, that's just a really high, a very, expensive thing, you know. So special departmental supplies is things we use specifically in that department that don't fit into any other category. And, the treatment plant uses a lot of chemicals that are very expensive, you know. And all that stuff's going on.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, well, and I guess more a comment, but one of my other questions was about the increase for professional and technical I'm wondering if it makes sense to call that the division of water, drinking water. If that should be in professional and technical, or if that's more of like a fee, or
Do I have that one?
That's underwater.
yeah, underwater.
Okay, so
More so a question. I mean, yeah, I remember talking about that fee in Central Water.
yeah, I mean,
That's where we come out of.
it's possible that we could put it in another place. It's $19,000 is what the fee is.
Oh.
So it's not the entire thing. The biggest portion of that is software programs. That's $29,000, and then sample testing is over $15,000 as well. So that's the majority of what's in that budget.
Okay. Yeah, I guess then, yeah, my overarching question was why it went from 40,000 to 136,000.
Primarily the division drinking water fee
The fee that we have to pay.
that we have to pay, yeah.
They raise their fees.
Right, but did Michael just say it was only $19,000?
I'm showing that line item underwater, professional and technical at 66,500. We moved $70,000. This is what it is.
Oh,
We
okay.
moved $70,000 out of there because it was for planning.
Oh, okay, that's
And
fine.
it went over to CIP.
Okay,
And the 40,000 came out of, elections, professional technical for the same reason. So your number on, collections, professional technical is 40,000 high.
thanks.
Anybody else? All right, remember, this is just the workshop where we get to ask questions and then we'll have a draft. So more discussion. This is not the last time we'll be talking about the budget. Thanks, Obi.
Thank you.
Thanks, Louis.
Thanks. Good job, guys. Danny doesn't get
Good
to
job.
leave. No. Good job, Obi.
It's unusual for you to be sitting in front of us like,
I know.
it's always good to see you. All right, chief. So now we will be looking at the public safety department.
This is a low chair.
That's a broken chair. Do you want to trade me?
No, we'll just fight through it. Yeah, so we're gonna go through the police department budget, but that includes all of our different divisions. And did you want to start or you want me to start?
Go ahead
You'll
and
just
start
jump
when we
in?
get there. You follow.
All right. Okay, here's what we've got going on, and I did a lot more numbers and a lot smaller, and wasn't my intention to make it harder to see. Why am I seeing these in my way here? But, I'll go through these quickly and then we'll kind of talk a little bit more on line items if we want to as we get through things, but,
One thing to point out, when you look at our asks for 2027, there's a couple things that aren't there before that kind of throw the numbers off. Police grant shifts, we never budgeted for those before, and then movie and security wages, we never budgeted for those before. Those are both pass-through money items, so $375,000 that isn't actually in the budget. We're anticipating potentially bringing that in grants or overtime or shifts through security stuff. So if we remove those two numbers out of there, because that's not gonna cost the department or the city any money in actuality, our entire budget for police department only goes up 3.56%. So those numbers right there skew quite a bit what you're seeing here, make it look like we're going up a lot more than we are. And do you understand what those mean? What I mean by those? So anticipated, a lot of the grant shifts are our traffic safety shifts. We do about $150,000 to $180,000 worth of those shifts. So we're gonna budget ahead of time for those. Those will all be reimbursed.
By-
Security shifts by the state grant money. If we can work security, we are for Jeep coming up, et cetera. We're anticipating that is a high number likely, and that'll change to what we actually work at the end of the year. So it may not make it to 200,000, but
So it's just an offsetting.
these are just offsetting. Yep.
There's an equal revenue that goes with it.
Yeah.
Right, and just to clarify a little on those, the money's in there, that's not money to be used anywhere else, and unless we receive the money on the grants, that money's not spent.
That's right. Or if we receive less, it only gets spent up to the point that we received.
That's kind of even money.
Yeah.
And then we'll go through and kind of look a little bit closer to a couple things. I did a lot of reshuffling and we'll talk about that. And that's gonna answer a lot of questions, I think. So anyway, take those away. We're about a 3.56% increase is all in the police department. Victim advocates, pretty honestly gonna go down a little bit, pretty stable there. Beer tax we throw in there. This is what we anticipate receiving from beer tax. I don't know if the new big beautiful liquor store is gonna bring us more revenue in this regard, but most of the time we use this to purchase messaging signs, and speed trailers and things of that nature. Code enforcement, which we are transitioning to be community service officers, that budget is gonna go down just a little bit.
A lot of that's salaries and benefits, and I'll touch on that.
Animal shelter up a little, that's a salary benefit thing as well. And if we take that out and look at just a couple other small items, it's really the cost of utilities that has gone up and it's pretty flat. And that's a small budget anyway. All right, for the salary stuff, this is
Yeah, I'll jump in on salaries and benefits. So we'll start with the police department for salaries and benefits. Their salaries went up by 4.01%, so that's less than what our anticipated amount was. There's a couple reasons for that. There are 2 employees that are frozen in that department, in that budget. And also we moved an FTE out of the police department and moved them into CDD. So next meeting, when we meet on CDD, you'll see there's gonna be a pretty big bump there, but that's because of the FTEs moving around. So we have a couple of those coming up. Benefits are up in police by 15.61%. Part of that is our line of duty pay, which is a salary item, but benefits historically have not been calculated on that. We wanted to correct that this year to make sure we are calculating the correct amount of benefits on everything. So that's kind of where police lie. Victims advocate salaries are just slightly up. They're 7.48%. It's basically what we anticipated. There was a slight increase last year in one of the salaries. But benefits went down by 9.29%. This again is due to benefit status that was changed during the year. Code enforcement salaries are salaries are down by 13.75%, which is great. That is because historically we have budgeted for a part-time position that has not been filled, and then also an intern that we did remove this year. And then benefits went down by 4.68%, which is relative to the salaries that went down. Animal shelter, 8.77% increase in salaries. That is mostly due to the fact that we have a part-time employee up there that we have been budgeting for 20 hours a week. They've actually been utilizing that position for 29 hours a week. So while it doesn't seem like much, it does increase because it's such a small department. And, same thing with the benefits. Any questions on salaries, benefits?
Okay.
You guys didn't even need me here.
No, yes, we.
I do have questions about.
Tell me,
Yeah.
tell me, believe me.
So the biggest thing that if you notice if you look at last year's budgeted to this year's requests are going to be the line items that look very different. The reason for that is I went through and with the direction of Danny and Michael, it was an effort to more accurately track expenses to proper line items going forward. The biggest moves was moving things into professional and technical where they belonged out of subscriptions. Another was specialty department supplies and some of the others that we'll look at. Professional and technical are things that should, are technical services and not, they'd been under for years and it's just oversights, I'm sure, under subscriptions because it's a contract or a subscription with Motorola or so forth is kind of why I think it was there. But what we did is move things to where they should properly be. And on the next slide, I'll go through and kind of make sure that all makes sense. But some of the big ones to point out, professional and technical and why it's high and why subscriptions went down is a lot of these moved from that to this. But Motorola, they're big money item, about 75,000 annually. They go up about 6 to 8% every year. That's our Spillman, which is our record system, our report writing system, body cameras, handheld radios. UCA has been doing a lot of upgrades and changing in towers. And with that, we have several older 7,000 radios that are going to be no longer supported by Motorola. They already aren't supported by Motorola. So we'll have to start transitioning those to a newer model. But we'll do that over several years. But those are things we have to have. Obviously our body cameras and Spillman and the fees that go with those. Power DMS, that's 28,000 and 68% annual increase. That's where we track use of force, mental health, our field training, our accreditation, internal affairs, complaints, compliments. We actually get those. We get more than you think. Yeah. No. But those are required by statute, and some of those are, obviously very, very beneficial to us in making sure our people are taken care of and that we're tracking use of force. We're tracking the types of calls that they go on. One of those is it tracks if you've gone on several deaths in a short period of time, it'll flag us to say, hey, admin, maybe let's let this individual go talk to somebody or give them a quick timeout and make sure they're okay. So it's really beneficial. Axon, Taser, those are expensive, and it's storage. That's about 21,000 and required. Lexipol is our policy operation manuals. We all have them, and Police One training. No significant increases in any other departments under public safety. The animal shelter just has a small increase for utility costs and a couple small projects they're doing, $3,500. So this is what I was talking about. Subscriptions went from 200K down to 40,000 due to moving the expenses to proper categories. Professional and technical increased from 164 to 250 for the same reason. Most came from subscriptions. If we remove that 375 of pass-through money for the grant shifts, then our budget goes up to only 3.59%, which is actually less than COLA and increased benefit costs. So overall, our budget decrease for fiscal year 27 outside of salary and benefit lines. And I did some of the math if you're curious, but I know there's several line items that are different. So I'll open that up to questions and we'll work through those.
Questions, comments?
I got some, but I always go first. So.
Go ahead, Caitlin.
Okay. So I appreciate kind of the explanation of a lot of these. I think seeing the massive shifts between subscriptions, professional, technical, I think we'll see that because I know that you guys are cleaning a lot of that up, which I appreciate. I think while it is a 3.5% increase, it's been almost a 30% increase over the last couple of years. So that's kind of something. So I'm appreciating that we're kind of balancing out now that staff has come in. You guys have the equipment that you need to serve, but so I guess kind of thinking about that and line of duty, some of my questions are about the hard stuff, you know, the hiring bonuses. Now that we are fully staffed, Michael gave me numbers about 11 officers over the last 3 years, which is great. And amazing that we were able to add those on staff. I guess one of my questions is moving forward, what would it be like to hire officers like in the future without that or with a decreased amount?
The last couple that we've hired new, which means they don't get that hiring bonus. And I like that because we're giving people opportunities from the community, and they've been members of the community. One that's in the academy right now, member of the community, last one, same. So they don't get the bonus. The hiring, that was something that really was helping us to recover from an untenable position when I got here, and we had 6 police officers for this city. A couple were sergeants, and it was not good. And we've worked really hard. We needed to bring in talent and people with experience, and I don't see us needing to do that as often going forward, if at all. We anticipate a couple personnel changes every year, of course, which happens. I know there's discussion on how we might, if we did bring in somebody with a great deal of experience, say we have a supervisor position open and we don't have somebody internally that can do that we would spread out the bonus or the hiring bonus over 3 years, and that way they don't get that much up front. It's at the end of, you know, a year they would get that and spread that out over 3 years to make that a little bit better. And also, if they leave within that first 3 years, which has happened, they pay it back, but it would limit, you know, what we're out. So they've only got 5,000, they pay back 5,000. We have, you know, individual gets hired now and get a $15,000 bonus and leave, they pay that whole 15,000 back. So that's one thing. I don't anticipate us needing to hire at the rate that we did in the past of highly experienced officers. I love that we're in a position to build them.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, especially, last time you shared that they were local hires, which is great.
Yeah.
My other question is about line of duty, which was rebranded. We learned that at strategic planning, was previously a housing stipend, specific to officers. And, so kind of similar question, given that I'm really struggling with this, and I think that I see it as opportunity to talk about a housing stipend that is equitable across the city. You know, I'll talk about this specifically for sure. I'm in a very unique position where I was on staff when there were 6 officers. I was on staff when Gabby Petito happened and BLM and all of that stuff. And so, you know, I remember that and I know how valuable it was to invest in that. And so I think that shows that investing in employees as you hire them and giving them good benefits and good support works to rebuild a department. And so one of my questions now is, how do we, now that we've accomplished this with MPD, how do we make that equitable across other departments that are continuously struggling with that, especially with employees that are typically on the lowest ends of the pay scale? And so yeah, I guess one of my questions as I'm evaluating that in the budget is like, you know, what's your take on that? How do you think officers would respond? How is the housing stipend versus line of duty
Yeah.
come across?
Well, I think there's a few things to consider, but the biggest one, it's expensive to live here. We know that, but it's expensive for everyone to live here. So I absolutely understand that.
And just real quick, Chief, I can answer the question about like the equitability, equity for the whole city. If you just want to answer what it would look like for your department, you know, now that we are staffed and everything, what is it?
Yeah.
It's just still necessary? How many people get it and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, all the sworn officers get it. And it adds up to, what is it, 120,000 a year. One of the things with it, because we don't have retention, is that in some ways works as that. the cost to train a new officer, hire, do the background, put them through all the, steps and rigors to get them hired, trained through field training and on the road is about 150,000 per officer. So in us retaining who we have, we're saving money every year, frankly, in keeping what we have right now with that line of duty. I think we would potentially lose some officers is my thought process. Not all, but we would lose some. Right now we keep them because they pay more on the Wasatch Front. This makes us a little bit closer to even, and they get to live in a beautiful place and work in a place that they love, and don't have to go work at a big agency in those areas, which for me is huge because we've got a great group of people right now that we've worked really hard to develop and train and get to where they are. And things are working great the way they are with who we have. So that's my thought on it. One of the things I've tried to do every year with budget, and was able to do it this year. And I can jump into this right now. If you look at all those line items and do the math, of course, take out that 375, but outside of not looking at salaries and benefits, but the total decrease in what I've requested for professional technical, everything that's down below the overtime and unemployment line of duty, everything below that, we're actually coming in at 152,600 less than last year, which pays for line of duty. And that's kind of how I'm trying to also help out in that regard. We did really well and been super supported in equipment and getting things that we need to be a professional police department, and we're in a good spot now, and we don't need as much of that, so we can save on that end, I think, and invest in personnel.
So, and I'm just jump in here. So, my recommendation is that we continue to provide the benefits that have been provided in the past. And Chief and I have talked about this, and I think it's really important to realize, we were in a crisis at a point, and we're not in a crisis now, but we don't want to end up in a crisis again. So his points about retention and everything are really important, but there's always room and there's always opportunity to have discussions and to talk about these things, and to look at the situation that we're in at this point and see, what can potentially be done. Is there any wiggle room? I know one of the desires is to be equitable across the board, and I think that's something that we should talk about as we look at the entire budget. But just in this situation, I think going forward, if we want to recommend that we continue this benefit that has been in place for a while, and that and if this is something that you do want to have discussions about, I'm more than happy to talk with the council about policies and things like that, and to work with the chief and come back to you with options and those types of things. I just need direction from the council.
And I'd like to say before we move away from this item, I personally kind of want to add my voice to this in a way. I am made somewhat uncomfortable by the rebrand of a housing stipend just being called line of duty and continued to be handed out. Like, what I would really like to see is, I want to make sure that our officer salaries reflect that retention. And I would be more comfortable with it instead of being a stipend if we made sure their salaries reflected what we need for retention, and that if we were going to have something like a housing stipend, that, as Caitlin kind of brought up, that it would theoretically be available to any department that was struggling to staff itself versus just kind of rebranding this one. And if salaries need to be adjusted to keep people in town, I completely understand the idea that we put a lot of time and effort into training and investing in our officers, and that losing them is hard for us. And I certainly don't want to make anybody feel like we want to rip a rug out from underneath them or otherwise. But I think in the way that we structure things and in the way that we pay people, I'm more comfortable with this being like payroll than it being an additional item that is treated differently.
But if it's payroll, then
The compounds.
it compounds, yeah. So then the benefits side of
You know, rate, give them raise. So that X amount, whatever, is gonna turn into higher, we're already paying more. That's why.
Danny, is there a policy in the employee manual on this? Or is this something that you were going to update for us when we look at the employee manual later?
We currently have a policy on there. We had talked about if anything was to change, we could add or change it there, but right now we do have a policy on it.
I think
Any other comments?
If you were
questions?
talking like you said like $120,000 or what was it, $110,000?
it's 120.
120 for all of them.
For fully staffed.
Right.
You know, so who knows what we're saving as far as if you had 3 officers leave,
Right.
$300,000.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, in my opinion, it's a worthwhile investment in that regard. I'm
Just because police officers is probably the one department where the onboarding is so expensive compared to other departments.
it's expensive anywhere to onboard officers. It really is. And we'd rather not have to do that over and over again. And this, this last year, we were fully staffed almost the entire year. And for a police department to be fully staffed ever is pretty amazing. And we've been at or near fully staffed the last couple of years. So, we're spending more of that salary and line of duty. And going forward, right now we're fully staffed. I can't predict the future, but I anticipate that there's always one or two that will retire or take another opportunity. So, but if it's small like that, it's a lot more manageable than start from scratch.
Any other questions?
No, I
Chief?
just want to say that I think that speaks to your leadership, Lex. A bad boss can make the best job in the world crap.
Well, thank you.
So I think that speaks a lot to your leadership and your team.
I appreciate that. We got great people.
All right. More conversation to be had, just so you know, this is just the beginning. Thank you, guys. And this is, anything else, Michael, you want to add?
Yeah, I'll just add, appreciate the conversation. I am open for questions at any time. I'd be happy to talk about philosophy and why do it this way versus another way, and happy to be open to suggestions as well. I think we obviously don't know everything, so we do try to do our best, and that's what we're trying to do. And I know that tonight we had 2 great department heads present who have worked really hard on their budget and are very, very involved in the budget preparation, and which makes very involved department heads in budget management, which ends up saving us money at the end of the year every year. So we really appreciate everything everyone's done. And obviously Danny needs to be thanked as well. So since she's what holds us all together around here. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. All righty.
Thanks.
We will have our second budget workshop at our next meeting on the 24th of March. And who all will be presenting that?
Everyone.
Else.
So I got to bring this up really quick, if I can take a second, Mayor. We may have to put do a workshop before the April meeting when we approve the tentative budget and the salaries and the fee schedule, just because it just is working out that way. But the next meeting will be full again. We'll have a lot of smaller departments and then a couple of big ones, Public Works and community development, and then a lot of smaller stuff from there. So looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks. So next we have Randy Day that's probably here to speak to are you here to speak to the public as public comment tonight? Yeah. I knew you were. So next up we have public comments, and Randy, if you'd like to come up, 3 minutes.
I'm not sure how to approach this. I know I'm late to the wagon on losing 25% of my ball fields overnight, because the redesign for this city ballpark is gonna take 25% of my ball diamonds away. And I don't know how we're gonna replace them, because I looked at the design, it looks like we're getting 3 ballparks. Is that correct?
No.
And a
we're
parking
just-
lot?
No, it hasn't been designed yet. What's in there are some
Oh, I just
concepts
saw
that
that.
somebody put
Scared me to
together.
death.
Yeah, it's a concept at this point. The design will be heavily influenced by public comment.
Right.
But somebody just threw some stuff together and said, hey, these are some options. None of those have been adopted.
Thank you. I'm relieved. I need baseball diamond right now. I'm coaching a team because of my grandson. And so I'm putting together what I did last year, the same thing, a travel team that's 13 and under. We wear the Devils uniform. We copy the colors of the high school because I want them to want to play for the high school. I want them to want to win a state championship like my kids did. I want them to do that. I can't do that in city rec. It doesn't work. The rules are changed so the game's easier for everybody. I understand that. Baseball's like life. You get 3 strikes, you're out. You get lots of different opportunities though. Where else can you be successful only 3 out of 10 times and you're good? That's baseball. I need some help. I've left messages for staff, and when they work with me, it's unbelievable how they help me. I promise, I'm not knocking them, but lately I haven't been able to get a field organized. I got a tournament I want to bring here, 13 and under. I got teams lining up that want in, but I got to make sure that I have the support from the city to make sure that these fields will work for me. The county fields, I've been out there, very difficult to adapt to baseball at under 13 years. Fields are a different size. That makes that a little tough. The infields out there are a little gritty. You get a lot of bad hops. I can't afford bad hops for little guys. I don't mind it for adults, fine, get your teeth knocked out, you can afford to fix them, but not for a 13-year-old or 12-year-old. I'm so relieved to hear that these designs aren't accepted because I put a lot of time in that baseball diamond over the years. I welded fence, I put up screen, and I will do it again to help save the money to build that. I will do it again. Okay, when Glenn Richardson ran that program and we changed that, I would love to have that field named after him. He's a Hall of Famer coach. He brought that to us. I'm wearing his uniform that I wore when I was in high school. And I'm not telling you how long ago that was. You'll laugh. And yeah, we had wooden bats. We did not have metal. Wonderful times. Sorry. I just really appreciate the opportunity. Please let me know how I can help. But I need a field. And if somebody can call staff and ask them to get with me to let's work this out. I need to practice and I need to play. And we got tournaments and we want to bring that to Moab. This is a baseball town, always has been. And now I understand the high school's struggling for players. That breaks my heart. We can't have that. We got to fix that. And it takes a town to do it. And Mayor, thank you
You bet,
for
Randy.
recognizing me. And
We'll have somebody get in touch.
we appreciate all the work you do. I know and this is budget time, but I felt like 25% of my ball diamond just went away and I'm so
Oh.
glad to know.
And you'll be, please pay attention because we'll like to include you in. the
I would love to be
discussion.
part of that discussion. And I was serious about naming that field after Glenn Richardson. Promise. That's cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
Thanks,
All right. Thanks, Randy. Anybody else? Public comment? Yes, Sophia.
Hey, everybody.
Wow, I've been outside of this microphone in a while. My name is Sophia Fisher. I'm an employee for Room to Room Restoration. It's great to see all you here and thank you as always for the time and dedication you give to the community as public servants. I'm just here to give a quick shout out to another group that's given a lot of time to our community, and that is Team Rubicon. Team Rubicon is a veteran-led humanitarian organization that helps communities before, during, and after natural disaster. And they're actually going to be in town next week for their 8th operation in Moab.
They'll be removing hazardous fire fuels out on a city-owned property in Spanish Valley in collaboration with the Fire Break campaign, which the city is also a partner on. So I'm just here to extend an invitation to city councilors, the mayor and staff leadership as well, if they'd like to come out for a site visit, meet with some volunteers, meet with the leadership of Team Rubicon and the Fire Break campaign. We'd really appreciate it. The visits are meant to be fun and informal, and it's a great way to show our community's gratitude for these volunteers. Many of them have come to Moab 3 to 4 times in the past, over the past decade, and they've provided really invaluable support, helping us prepare for and respond to natural disasters, including wildfires and floods. We also have opportunities for engagement before and after the workday in case a workday time site visit doesn't work for anybody. So I just want to add that you should have received an email last week with more details and a scheduling poll, but I'm happy to resend that in case anybody wants that back in their inbox. Show of hands, does anybody want that email again?
Send it back to us. So
Perfect, will do.
it's lost in our emails.
I understand, that happens to me too. And I brought this cool hat, which you might get also if you come out to a site visit, so just promoting the swag. Cool, that's all I have. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a good night.
Thanks, Sophia. Any other public comments this evening? All right. The chief is up again next for a department head update about the Citizens Police Academy.
Taking a taller chair this time. Yeah, this is something that I've wanted to do since I came here, and this year the stars are aligning. So what we anticipate doing, we are doing, is a Citizens Police Academy, which is at its definition a familiarization program for citizens to come starting. We're going to start April 22nd, Wednesday nights from 6 to 9 p.m. for 6 Wednesdays in a row. So for 6 weeks, we'll do a basic police academy with a lot of hands-on experience for anybody in the community who would like to participate. I anticipate 1 or 2 council members. I would love that. I know we got one that's interested. One broke his leg to get out of it.
When I heard about the push-ups and sit-ups, I was.
Yeah, there's no PT test. No PT test, but really what it is to give people an idea of what the training is like that we go through, what our day-to-day life is like. Give you an idea of what it's like to do a traffic stop, to walk into a family fight, some of these scenarios that just really help people understand the stress and then the lack of any time to make decisions sometimes and what we deal with, and then experience some of that. We'll also talk about what we do for training. Again, we anticipate 6 weeks. There will be a range day. There will be a day doing some emergency vehicle driving, and the other days will be different types of scenarios. We will feed everybody who comes every week. You're coming after work on a Wednesday from 6 to 9. If we're not going to feed you dinner, I don't think anybody wants to come, so we'll feed you. The only caveat to it is 18 and older, and you have to pass a basic background check because we will do a day at the range, and we need to make sure people can be around firearms and around those sorts of things. There's not a physical requirement or anything of that nature. So I was joking, but we're going to put that notification up on Facebook and of the city, post that as well. You can get applications by emailing me, come to the police department itself. We'll have the application period open for the rest of this month, which will give us time to do a quick background check on those that are interested. I'd love to have 20 members of our community, and this can be anybody in the whole community, media included, can attend if they'd like. I think it's pretty fun for everybody. I'm really excited. We've been looking forward to doing this, and we're designing some really fun stuff and really educational things. But we'll get that information out, and the applications are available here, and I can email them out. Any questions on it? I mean, I just gave you the basics, but what's that? I already told him he's out. I already said he broke it to get out of it, but he could do it. He would just miss out on the fun, I think, a lot of it. But. Might be a good actor though.
Yeah.
Might be able to use it.
Just play the victim in all the scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, might actually be really good.
All right, any questions, any comments? Sorry.
Great, Lex, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be awesome. I mean, there's a lot more detail that's going into it than what I'm saying, but I just wanted to make the announcement that we're doing it. We'll get it posted on social media and, yeah, spread the word. I can send any of that information to each of you too, so that you can hand it out if you run into people that want to do it. I'll send it out to everybody.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
And if you're interested, let Lex know.
Yeah.
2 people from the council. If there's room for more, he'll let us know.
Yeah, I want to give people opportunities, but you know, if there's extra room, the more the merrier.
Thanks, Lex.
Okay, thank
Thanks,
you.
Lex.
All right, our first item of business is our consent agenda this evening. Items 5.1, 5.2, approval of the minutes from February 24th, 2026, regular city council meeting, and the approval of the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $1,178,396,022. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Tani, second.
I'll second.
Second by Miles. Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, Andrea, thank you for coming. Our first item of business is the consideration of a letter of support for Grand County's application. It's a planning grant application to approve Sand Flats Road and develop a separated multi-use pathway. Appreciate you coming. Normally, this is something I would put on a consent agenda, but I felt like it'd be good for you to give us an update on where we're at and vote on your letter.
Sure, happy to answer questions. I am looking for a letter of support. I've already gotten a letter of support from the commission and the BLM, of course, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, Emergency Management Director and Grand County EMS and Motorized Trail Committee and then Sand Flats Recreation Committee. And so this project is, we call it SECA, Sand Flats Economic and Community Access Project. It's a comprehensive planning and design project focused on improving safety, mobility, emergency access, and multimodal connectivity along the Sand Flats Road corridor and into the Sand Flats Recreation Area. The proposed planning effort will evaluate transportation conditions along approximately 9 miles of the Sand Flats Road, extending from the Sand Flats Road, Mill Creek Road Junction to the Porcupine Rim Trailhead. And so this is part of the 2022 Grand County and Moab City Unified Transportation Master Plan. And that plan identified the Sand Flats Road as one of the 10 prioritized roadway projects. And the purpose of the plan was to identify, plan for, and prioritize near, mid, and long-term transportation projects, which include street connections, roadway improvements, new pathways that will enhance connectivity, multimodal transportation, and safety. In addition, it identified the need for constructed pedestrian and bicycle facilities to connect Sand Flats to downtown Moab and a shared use path from the Sand Flats entrance to access Porcupine Rim. And when the roadway was originally constructed, it was set up for approximately 100 vehicle trips per day. We are now seeing an average of 400 vehicle trips today, and in peak season, we are seeing 800 to 1,200 vehicle trips per day. And so this is 3 to 5 times what the Federal Highway Commission recommends for a gravel road capacity. And so I'm coming to you today for your support. This was supported before as part of the Unified Master Plan between the city and the county. So I'm hoping I can get a letter from you folks as well.
Questions, comments for Andrea?
I'd comment on this. I'm very much in support of this, and this is something, as Andrea knows, that we've has come across the trail mix committee many times in the past. And I, in addition to just a desperate need for safety improvements for bicycle access into Sand Flats. To me, the most sort of powerful argument is the impact that we've all learned that dust has on our snowpack and the Sand Flats Road. If you've been up there during the season and when it's really heavy in traffic, it reminds me a little bit of a Mad Max movie. I mean, the dust impact is just so significant, and how adjacent it is to our LaSalle's and to our dwindling snowpack is just for me, such a compelling reason to support this. So I'm really glad that we're talking about this today.
I agree, and I'm glad that it seems like this has been an ongoing thing for a few years, you know, and stuff. And I'm hoping that if it is paved, you know, that you guys will be able to pave the washboards in, you know, so. Have that,
Maintain that
we can have
experience.
the- I'm actually, I hope you're right. No, that's one reason I'm glad. Or opportunity of paved. So thank you for spearheading this for so many years.
Yeah, and just for background for people that maybe aren't aware, we tried in 2023, we almost got a capital grant to do the project. 2024, we didn't rate as well. They had changed things and then they changed it again this time. So what we put in for is a planning and design grant because we're like, okay, this will be much less money. And if we can get this, then we can be ready for a build grant in the future or a flap grant in the future, which is actually a better match. So we're just stepping back and trying it this way instead of going for the capital project. We think that this is a better option. The commission and the planning and zoning and engineer, the county and the road department as well.
You've been working on this for a long time.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the letter of support for Grand County's application to improve Sand Flats Road and develop a separated multi-use pathway.
Motion by Jason,
I can
second,
second that.
second by Colin. Any further discussion, Jason?
No.
Colin? Anybody else? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea, for coming. I really appreciate the update.
And here is your letter.
All right.
Like that.
Through the magic of television, you knew it would pass.
All righty. Next up, we have item 6.2, consideration of a contract award to Civil Science in the amount of $144,600 for the Center Street Ballpark redesign project. Please don't pay attention to what was in your packet. Those are just ideas. We'll have a full community engagement. That's what this whole process really is about. So I think Patrick's on Zoom.
Mhm.
You guys, we've talked about this. It's in our capital plan. I don't know if you have any questions. I don't know if you want to
Yeah.
add anything.
I'll just say really quick, Patrick is here to answer questions, but I'll say it's under what was budgeted. The contract amount's 144,000. We're working with a firm that we're familiar with. The plans that Randy Day was talking about were just concepts that were put to them. Nothing's been adopted or anything like that. We definitely have planned a robust public involvement process for this. And there are a few things in the contract that are fill in the blank that we need to fill in. And we're asking for approval and authorization to move forward with the contract.
Yeah, I don't really have anything on it because I think we've been working through this for so many years. It's a great use of the RAP tax.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have a motion?
I'll make a motion again. I move to award the contract for the redesign of the Center Street Ballpark to Civil Science in the amount of $144,600 and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Second,
I'll second.
second by Tawny. Discussion, Jason?
No.
Tawny?
No.
Anybody else?
I just have one question for record for the public. The last time we considered this, it was for perimeter. I'm wondering if you can explain the shift to civil science.
Sure. It never actually got to council with Perimeter, but yes, we did work with Perimeter for a little while until it was discovered that they actually weren't responsive in the RFP. The response required a few things that they did not provide. So we couldn't move forward with them legally. It needed to go to the second bidder, and they were responsive, and that's what we're doing now.
Thanks. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, next up, 6.3, consideration of a request from Amasa Apartment Phase 1 for impact fee waivers under the Affordable Housing Partnership Policy and Impact Fee Assistance Program. Michael? will
Yes, ma'am.
present this.
I'll
Corey's
be
here.
recusing myself.
Okay. So yeah, I'll just take this. This is based on the policy that we worked together to create, and it was just adopted. The policy outlines a process for an application to be submitted and then presented to the city council after the city manager reviews and makes a recommendation. My recommendation is that we approve this application for the fee waiver for the amount that is in the document, which I will say is $43,750. And award that to Amasa. They do meet all of the criteria that was established. They're providing low-income housing for the community, which is the reason why this was prepared. And we look forward to working with them going forward. This is just for the fee waiver. It has nothing to do with development agreements or anything else like that. This is just the fee waiver, and I'm recommending approval.
This is for phase one.
Phase one, yes, they could potentially, if the program continues, apply for future phases as well, if they qualify.
Comments, questions?
So I do, and well, I'm gonna say the same thing for the next item. I have watched the city and the county. I think that the way code is written is always at the end of the day the most important thing, not what the intention was. And the way that I read this policy is that the impact fee waiver is applied on a per unit basis. And it's not clear to me how averaging is determined or when it's applied. There's no specificity in there. So I would like to, well, and so I'm going to propose for both an alternative calculation, which is on a per unit basis, which is how I read the ordinance, without applicability of averaging. And so I would, when we're ready, I would make a motion for a different amount. The difference is $625, but the way that I calculate this, rather than applying an average AMI across the board, and applying proper weight to units below 30% AMI and then units in the 30 to 59% AMI category, my calculation comes out to $44,375. And I believe the applicant, I'm assuming once again that they're on Zoom, hard to know, but that I believe that is how they calculated it as well. So that would be my proposal. I believe that the first time we implement this is going to set precedent for how we implement it for every project moving forward. And so that is my recommendation for how this should be applied and how I'm interpreting it. So
What was the amount?
$44,375. And the way that comes out is for the 5 units that are below 30% AMI, they receive a maximum waiver of $5,000. And for the 45 units that are in the 30 to 59% AMI category, they'd be the next tier down. So rather than getting the full at 45,000, it would be 39,375. So adding those two together.
So just a comment, the intent, and I think that's why you brought up, the intent was that it would be based on averaging. That's the way it was presented to the council. I think it's up to you to decide whether or not the language supports the way that I've presented it, or the way that Caitlin has presented it. It's something I think that could be resolved going forward with an amendment. I have some ideas about how to further incentivize people who are closer, because 30 to 60 range, both applicants are in that range, but you got one applicant that's down the lower end, one applicant that's up on the higher end. And I think, if we had all the time in the world, we might have thought of this, but that's something that we could look at in the future as providing a little more incentive on the lower end, whether it's per unit or by average. But I do think that would be more beneficial going forward, doing it that way. I know that it's only $625 for this applicant, but it changes other applicants drastically in the other direction. And I think, you know, my intent in writing this and presenting it to you was always averaging. Again, it's up to you to interpret the code on how it's written. And I think the section that is being referred to is 6C, number 1. So,
Go ahead, Jason.
I cut you off. Right?
It's the leg, isn't it?
It is.
Michael, I appreciate that explanation. I do have a different interpretation than Caitlin. There are, I think, 2 references to the average in the wording. And I think that, I think this is this policy is a work in progress, and I do look forward to amending it. And I think that, even as now in the current state of things, we're seeing a sort of an evolution of the needs of the community in terms of housing. And so I do hope to, to keep this sort of malleable so that we can keep addressing the newer needs or the evolution of the community's needs. I also want to say that to me, in looking back at the workforce assured housing ordinance, that really is the impetus for this. I think that these are very consistent with the intent, whereas, most of the money in our Wahoo fund, in our housing fund, did come from the fee in lieu of construction of large hotel projects. And I think both of these projects really sort of embody that demographic that didn't get that workforce, that hospitality workforce that didn't get housing, with these new big constructions of hotels, and rather we got a fee in lieu of that housing. And so I think both of these projects do a great job of sort of casting that safety net that is, something that was the true intent of the workforce assured housing ordinance. So I look forward to, I think that I'll be voting to approve both of these. And I think that both these projects are one, money well spent, and just the scale of these projects are going to have a massively positive impact on our community.
Jason?
Said it very well. Yeah.
Any comments from you?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Colin and with Jason, but I think it's money well invested. I like your term, keeping it malleable, keeping it living and adjusting it as we need to. Nothing is a silver bullet, nothing is perfect. So.
Motion?
I can make a motion. I move to approve the impact fee waiver request submitted by Amasa Apartments with the condition that the applicant shall provide proof of recording of the required declaration of restrictive covenants prior to the issuance of any fee waivers or credits, and authorize the city manager to execute the required waiver contract.
Motion by Colin, I have a second.
I'll second.
Second by Tawny. Any further discussion?
I do. I'll explain myself on this. That said, I do stand by everything I said. I will be supporting this because I support the intent. I still strongly disagree with the interpretation and do think that language needs to be revisited. Because I think it's important for us to be prioritizing the most subsidy to the units that need it most, need that most of that gap. And so I will ultimately be supporting this. However, I will emphasize my disagreement with the final amount, but am willing to accept it.
We will be reviewing this policy, I'm sure, in short order. And at those times, Caitlin, I think it'd be great if we could make those clarifications. All right, motion by Colin, second by Tawny. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Right. Next up, item 6.4, same thing, different developer. And this is a request from the Collaborative 1581 Phase 1 LLC for impact fee waivers under the Affordable Housing Partnership Policy and Impact Fee Assistance Program. And Caitlin, I think, we know where you stand on this. If you feel like you need to say the same thing for this one and what the differences in the calculations would be, I think that would be appropriate.
Absolutely. Excuse me. Yeah, so because this one is a much more significant change, especially given the number of units. So the way that I have calculated this, rather than the agenda summary recommendation of 126,000, I would recommend, and I have calculated $109,625. The way that breaks out for 144 units is 30 to 59% AMI, 15 units. Rather than a max waiver of 15,000, calculated waiver is $13,125. Next tier down, 60 to 79%, that's 127 units in that range. And this is the biggest change. The biggest change in calculation, but instead of 127,000, I've calculated $95,250, given the scale, and then finally 80 to 120%. There are two 80% AMI units rather than 2,000. Calculated waiver would be 1,250. And again, we'll just emphasize, same points, but that would be, and the difference between those two is $16,375. And I think it's important, I feel it's important for me to raise these concerns between these two, because $16,000 is down payment assistance. That's, as we're talking about single family or ADUs, that's the kind of level of investment that we need to be considering for people who need that. I think those are gonna be very different tools. And we've had conversations about how this program is not gonna be as applicable for single family and for ADUs. But I see that number as like, that's a real difference in calculation. And so extrapolating out over time, that will result in different amounts over time. And so the way that we're moving forward on this, I think is important, because over time, especially with bigger projects, it makes a difference. So I'll leave it at that.
Any other councils, members, comments, Miles?
So yeah, I wasn't able to speak or vote on the last one, as I was recusing myself because of my company's involvement with Amasa. I also wasn't here for the decision to implement this program and this policy. And I do feel that while many other council members have voiced this as money well spent, I don't see it that way. Frankly, I see the Wahoo Fund as something that we could really build a program that is more beneficial to our locals. Like right now, essentially, we're spending this money to adjust a developer's bottom line so that we can theoretically be more enticing to develop in. And like, this money will not make or break these projects. We don't want a project that was made or broken by $40,000 or $100,000. But I know that, in our recent housing task force meeting, one of the discussion points was how helpful a down payment assistance program could be. And to me, something like that is exactly what Wahoo's for. And we are, honestly, our infrastructure needs a lot of work. And so we kind of need all of our pennies to work on it. And I am not in support of forgiving impact fees right now, when we have a lot of work to do with exactly what those impact fees are meant to do, which is work on our infrastructure.
Any other comments, questions?
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I also want to thank Jake for coming down, and your partner. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening and responding with an updated letter. I think that this project is a really big deal. 4%, there's a world of difference between 4% and 9% light tech projects. We never thought it could be done, and so this is a major milestone for housing. So I want for you to know my comments are about policy implementation. I appreciate you guys showing up and for everything that you're doing to build in Moab. And so I want to be clear about that too. So thanks.
Michael.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a recommendation. This is a different application. There's 144 units, where the last one was 50. They have met all of the criteria. They have also already recorded the deed that is required that restricts these for 50 years. And I'm recommending approval of the $126,000 based on the interpretation that you used in the last approval.
I agree. I don't think it makes sense to change the policy on this, at this time when we created this policy and these guys have met the stipulations that we asked them to do and stuff. Yeah, you had some great comments and, and stuff that, when we created this policy, it was, we created the guidelines that we thought would work, stuff like that. So I appreciate your comments, and they're good comments and stuff. Yeah, anyway. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the impact fee waiver request submitted by the Cooperative 1581 Phase 1 LLC based on staff's findings of compliance with the Affordable Housing Partnership Policy and authorize the city manager to execute required waiver contract.
Motion by Jason,
I'll second.
second by Tawny. Any further discussion, Jason?
No.
Tawny.
Just to say that, I'll say this again, that this isn't going to be perfect. Nothing is going to be perfect. It makes us put our money where our mouth has been for over 10 years. And, if we move the goalposts on this development, we're not trustworthy. And I don't think the Wahoo was ever intended to be a down payment assistance program. It was meant to benefit the larger community. It wasn't just for, certain people. So that's why I'm going to continue to support this. And I hope that we can, recraft or rewrite this policy so it's more palatable to other people.
Anybody else? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Gonna do a roll call. Miles?
Nay.
Caitlin?
Aye.
Colin?
Aye.
Connie?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1 with Miles in opposition. Thank you, guys. Good comments. We'll get the policy, start working on that coming up.
With the rest of them.
Yeah.
So
We have a lot of policies, but anyway, thank you guys for coming, from the cooperative. And thanks for the, you guys were kind of instrumental in us moving this forward, so thanks.
We appreciate you guys moving in and working in to come up with the policy and they just be volunteer.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for our general business, and we move on to the city manager updates.
So I'm going to do a quick update today. I did go to the Glen Canyon National Recreation Area update today on water levels. It's grim. It doesn't look great, but they do have several projects that they are working on. I think some of these are required because of the lower lake levels, but I did snap a picture on the presentation really quick. The way that they put it, these are the priorities and how they're listed. First one being first priority, Height North River ramp access, $27 million. Antelope Point Public Lake access ramp, $81 million. Bullfrog Stanton Creek Lake access ramp, $74 million. Rainbow Bridge North access, National Monument access, $10 million. And Mid Lake fueling, $14 million. I don't think they have the money for all of those, but those are the projects that they had mentioned. I do think there's some projects that they just have to implement as part of maintenance because of the lower lake levels. They have to change some of the ramps, things like that. They're not at a point right now where they're gonna stop making electricity, but it's not
Looking good.
it's not looking good. The people who ran the meeting today basically said, we always knew this could happen. We never knew it would happen so quickly. So they're getting dangerously close to a dangerous situation. So
So the
that
lake levels, what is that, 35 to 35?
43, I think
It's like 32.
No, it's not.
or as it is, you're right, it's
Yeah.
down in it's low.
Yeah.
It's
Like 40 feet.
I was gonna say,
before they
what's
have
the
to
bottom
turn down.
power pole?
it's within like 90 feet of where it is right now or less. Yeah, so if I get a copy of the presentation, I'll forward it to everybody with the graphs and everything. I don't have those here with me, but yeah, so 3530.
And I think it's 3490 where they can't use the curb line.
So they're only 40 away.
50 feet.
And there's a couple of thresholds. So anyways, they're not, things are not looking good, but I just want to let you know, I did attend that as well as a couple other staff members. We've been working a lot on budget. There's a lot going on. We've got several departments that have been reviewed already with our team, 4 departments, and we've got several departments left to go. So we're looking forward to going through the rest of those. As you know, and you're going to hear a lot, we are trying to clean things up as well. Trying to get uniformity. We're trying to establish some processes and policies internally that will help these budget processes go smoother and provide that really important uniformity going forward, because we want to be able to look at a line item and understand what possibly could come out of there, and not have to make changes, moving things around a lot. So if you look at professional and technical, we want to make sure that it's professional and technical that's coming out of there, not other things. So everybody's been really great with that. They've been very receptive, and everyone's working really well together. I don't have anything else to update you on at this point, except to say that if you have any questions on budget, I'm always available. Love to chat. I know you're going to be talking with the mayor soon. If you have any questions and you'd like me to address anything during those meetings, let me know, and I'll be happy to.
Thank you. All right, council reports. We'll start with you, Colin.
It's a short one.
That's why we're starting with you.
I attended a Trail Mix meeting today, and we talked a lot about the city, among other organizations, sponsored Spring Spruce Up that's coming up in about a month. And so there are I think there are about 12 pretty amazing projects. Expecting about 125 volunteers. There's this year is a special one because they're Friday night, we're going to be showing a film called The Best Day Ever, which will be about adaptive access to a lot of outdoor recreation, particularly mountain biking. And the folks from the Kelly Brush Foundation, which is a very, very active and successful foundation in promoting access for people needing adaptive access, will be down for the showing. And it's just a great weekend. So I'll send out to all the rest of the council and other staff a little more information about that, but it'd be great to see all of you there. Yeah.
Thanks. Is that it?
That's it for me. Yep.
Connie.
Mine's pretty short too, and I didn't break my leg. I attended a meeting with some of the board members of Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District. It was to discuss some HR issues and hopefully get that program in place. And I attended the audit committee meeting. And we were told that we had a good, clean audit. We had a few, I'm not even gonna say they were problems. We just had to rectify a few little issues. And I think it's it's testament to Michael's dedication and and other staff's dedication that our budgets are getting cleaner and cleaner, and we're learning, and we're not, we're not reverting to old habits. So thank you.
Thank you.
And haven't you now been taking over the responsibility for the bills?
Oh, I meant to thank you, Tony. Yeah, and that's gonna carry forward, because, right, is that?
His legs.
I can't sign. Look at this, I can't, yeah.
Yeah, look
Oh.
It's actually kind of fun.
You're, I question that, Tony, but, I'll,
Well,
there.
I'll fill in again
Sorry,
for you if you need me to.
I'll be back. I'm back next time. But Tony, thank you so much. Yeah.
Miles?
Okay, let's see. So, on 2/25, just after our last council meeting, I had two different meetings. So I attended the Hasu. It's good to know those cottages are full. They finally rented all those out successfully, which they're stoked on. There were a couple odds and ends brought up. They basically bought those cottages or restructured their loan. Mike McCurdy was there, and he brought up that they have done an impact fee increase at the county level. And so that's something that if you're building out there, you'd keep an eye out for. There's 6 more self-help homes approved through Hasu that are going to get going forward. And there's been some odds and ends going on at Cinema Court Skyline in the Virginian. They have had a couple vacancies, and it is tricky to fill vacancies in these AMI restricted housings because a lot of times people are able to apply, but at like after a certain period of tenancy, their income changes, and then they have to move out or change their situation. And then they had some updates that they were doing at the Virginian. That one's a fairly old development, so they had to do some pest control and some other updates to some of the units. City Housing Task Force, I'm sure Caitlin will talk about it as well, but we are planning a presentation for the rest of you guys, which we're really excited about, talking about housing priorities in the community and really trying to develop that housing toolbox with Corey. One of the main things that I pulled away from that in a big way is the city figuring out how we're going to do deed restriction management, because theoretically we have ADUs, which are all AEH, and they're online and we have people living in them, but we are now starting to see these AEH apartment buildings and otherwise start to come online, and we need a way of monitoring and managing those deed restrictions and ensuring that they are doing what they need to fill them. I've heard of some issues where these units aren't being filled and they're being asked to be removed from the AEH restriction. But there is some question in regards to how they are trying to fill the units and whether or not that is effective. So I think all of that just needs policy built around it, and then it needs people to manage it. And then of course, Red Rock Flats is coming right up on like being ready to move people in. That's pretty exciting. And then my final meeting on March 2nd was the Utah Renewable Communities. So that made it through the Public Service Commission, which is really exciting. There will be some training that I'm assuming some of city staff will be at in regards to how to talk to people about what's going on. But essentially, we are working our way towards having a more renewable power grid. The way they quoted it, it will likely be a $2 to $4 increase on anyone who is part of the plan on your monthly power bill, $2 to $4. But there will also be 2 opt-out notices going out from Rocky Mountain Power. So if you do want to opt out of this program, you will have the opportunity to do so. Otherwise, that $2 to $4 a month is going towards including more renewables in our power grid and making us a little bit more sustainable, which is exciting. And that's it.
And my understanding is there's going to be an ordinance coming before the council here in May.
Yeah.
So more on this to come as well. Thank you, Miles. Who else? You, Jason.
Oh, gee. Just go ahead and say it. Long talker.
You gotta Val.
I'm just kidding. So I had last 2 weeks have been very busy. Last week I had the opportunity to go out to Washington, DC, with I was out there with actually another organization, the Guides and Outfitters of America. We're out there working on a bunch of issues that they have coming up. One of those issues was things like the North Wash boat ramp, which has an economic impact upon our area, and trying to get some things moved along with that, as well as some other things that the outfitters are doing. While I was there, the mayor was there, and I was able to do double appointments, and stuff, and it was funny. They're like, "Weren't you just here like a half hour ago?" I was like, "Yeah." And now I put my city hat on, stuff. But we were able to meet with like all of our Utah delegation, which was great. And I think it's, we were talking a lot about the flood mitigation and the bridge that we need on 300 South. And I think it takes a little bit of time to kind of get the wheels moving on that and stuff. And I really felt like this time with like Congressman Kennedy, who will not be our congressman after next year. But we're able to speak with him, about, why we need this bridge, and that we're trying to control floodwaters coming off federal lands, and how this bridge is actually probably quite a bit cheaper than taking care of these floodwaters up higher, stuff that this is actually, a cheaper version. And I think a lot of those guys really caught on to it this time. I think a lot of them were like, "Oh yeah, I get that, and I see that and stuff." And so I think with like Senator Lee's office and Senator Curtis's office, and then like we were able to meet with Congresswoman Malloy's and Owen's office. We just had some great meetings, and Blake Moore. Great meetings with all of these guys, and I think they all kind of got it, and they were very supportive of us, what we're trying to do, and trying to get this pushed through with appropriations and stuff. So we'll see what's going on. We also did talk to them about, we were there, a week after Arch's timed entry had been taken off, and so that was fresh on everybody's mind. They asked us about it, and and I think we really kind of brought the point that timed entry's gone. It is what it is, and that we needed congressional and federal support to help us deal with what is next. Whatever the plan is to deal with that park entry, we needed them to be able to pivot, to work quickly, and to come up with substantial remedies, to deal with traffic backed up in the park, and to help, with businesses who will have it, because we could have the opposite thing happening with our economy, and they were very receptive of that. And it almost seemed like that they all knew, yeah, we know that we need to implement other things, and we need to do it very quickly. So I felt fairly positive about that, and I felt like that they understood the urgency that, and how critical Arches is to our economy here and what happens there. We also talked to them about Amtra, and the mayor was very good. I don't want to steal your thunder on that, but very good about, just pushing that we needed to keep that budget, going, and we were getting close. And it was amazing how many of them said, "Thank you for keeping to push this going. It's good to see you guys want this to end," which was great stuff. Other than that, the EAS contracts for the Essential Air Service for coming in are in. So we had there's 4 airlines that bid on the contract. They've all put in proposals, and now in the process of going through those proposals and trying to figure out which one will best support the community and is best for the community. The airport board will be going through over those next week, and putting a recommendation to the county commission of who they think is best, and the county commission will be doing that as well. I think, as we talked about before, like this it's a big deal. We got some great contracts and some great things coming up, and I can hopefully share those contracts with you guys in the next couple of days, and you guys can look over them. It's good. It's a good read. The travel council met today. Part of that meeting was to approve some grant funding for advertising for some events coming to town. The Grand County Commission allocated $250,000 towards helping with marketing grants for events that were coming. They're gonna be doing it in 2 different stages. Today, I think we went over about 14, events that were coming and to help give them some grant funding for that, which came up to about, I think it came up to about $65,000 in this cycle, and there'll be another cycle in June, for events and stuff. So there's a lot of great events that are coming to town. That's all I have.
Thanks, Jason. Don't need to repeat a lot of what Jason said.
That's me.
Oh, didn't I do you already?
It is.
Oh,
It is.
sorry, I meant to do him last. I don't know what it is, Caitlin. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I guess Miles, Miles did all the housing stuff, so I think I
It's-
kind of got confused.
It's-
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Caitlin.
Really, two of us now. No, it's okay. I'll go quick.
To start.
Yeah, we'll reiterate, city housing subcommittee and vocalized earlier kind of our recommendations, for priorities for the city. Excited to talk about that moving forward. So the 25th. On March 2nd, I attended LPC, final LPC. Session ended on Friday.
We're gonna have, I was gonna mention this, at our next meeting, we have a recap on Thursday. And then at the next
Yep.
meeting, we'll do a recap on everything that's gonna impact Moab.
Great. Yeah, cause I was following some stuff, but anyway, so session is over. We'll talk about that next time. I'll be at that session recap. Yeah. And then on the 3rd, I attended the courthouse open house, which was hosted by the Utah Judiciary, and the Sheriff's Department. It was super interesting. They had all 4, of our judges for district, so yeah, 7th District Court,
Justice Court.
Justice Court, Juvenile Court, and
District. You already
yeah.
said
Diversion
district.
or the drug program.
Yeah.
No. Maybe, I don't,
Yeah.
you were there.
Clearly I took a lot of notes. No, but I think it's our 3rd branch of government that I've, it's intimidating and a lot of people don't ever have a real reason to learn how the courts work, but, yeah, really impressed with, the way all of the judges responded to questions, particularly some political. I think that, they make it very easy now to participate in court online and to be able to review judges. And so I think even just looking at the reviews of our judges here, I think we've got a great team, in our court system. So they want to continue to do more open houses and events, trying to get people more educated on how that system works, which I think is amazing because obviously my pea brain only retained a little bit of it, even from that. And then on the 5th, I attended a housing task force meeting. The big thing that we talked about is this upcoming presentation to city and county about accomplishments and kind of goals moving forward, how the task force can better work with city and county to implement their respective housing goals. So that will come soon. There's also a committee between the task force and local homeless council that is doing a pretty big revamp of moabhousing.com to make that a little more accessible, update a bunch of information. CR is having their next open house in San Juan County on Lydia Court on March 26th for 4 homes. And I think those are my highlights. That's
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Next time you can go first.
That's okay.
Okay, so, Jason talked a lot about DC. I will have to say, we both were a little uncomfortable going to Washington since there was a war that occurred the Friday before we left. But it wasn't at first, there's a lot more security up on the hill, and that was a little intimidating, but, it was good to get back there, meet with our delegation and others. We did talk about the flooding, and just so to be clear, the project for the bridge is approximately 10 to 12 million. We're probably not gonna get that from the federal government, but we potentially could get, half or, 5 million or something like that. But it's good to get in there. It's our second year ask. So we're feeling pretty confident. We probably won't know anything until after the election. Right now it's like the ramp up, everybody's going in and saying, we need this, we need that. Then it kind of mellows out. They work on the budget and appropriations. So we probably really won't hear anything until the end of the year. We did talk about the UMTRA site. I'll get into that in a minute, but we also are going in for some transit funding for a planning grant for our transit service, so we can hopefully identify ways that we can make our transit service more sustainable, and looking at a regional transit service from San Juan County up to the Wasatch, which is something we're working on with AOG also. So we did put in that fund, that request. You and Alexi are going to move forward on the language to get that request in. I think by Wednesday they moved up all the deadlines, and that was the other thing. So everything's getting really rushed. So it was good that we went back there when we did. And it was interesting that the Arches, most of our delegation brought up Arches to us. They know our position. They know where we stand. And so even though, our statement was, hopefully you've got something planned, but all of that's going to cost money. We know that. And, we'll see where that all goes. We did also emphasize reinstating the timed entry was an option that they could consider, because that's low hanging fruit. It can be done really easily. It's not going to happen this year, but I think we should push for it to happen next year. We'll see how it goes. I don't anticipate that everything's going to be smoothly run in the park this year during our busy season. UMTRA was great. Everybody is so excited about that project. It's so close to being finished. Everybody's really glad that, we got it over the finish line. I had an opportunity to meet with the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. Some of you guys may not know, but they were very instrumental in advocating for this project. And when we went to meet with them, they were just so excited to see us and that we're getting so close. And they've been behind the scenes pushing for this project also. They talk about it at every meeting they have. It's in their annual report. We've got this event coming up where the final 1 million tons of tailings have been moved. They're already gone. We had to postpone the event, but the water district is planning to come out on their private Gulfstream jet to celebrate with us, along with Congresswoman Grace Napolitano. Hopefully she's going to be there. She was the Democrat from Southern California who also really was behind this project. And she actually called me up and said, what's going on with Moab? And so she really wants to come. So hopefully she'll be able, she retired from Congress last year. So we're hoping that she can be here, because this is one of the few not bipartisan projects that we've seen, which is truly bipartisan on both sides. We've never had any kind of controversy from the Republicans or the Democrats on the importance of getting this project completed. So that doesn't happen anymore. Like Tim told us, right now, bipartisan in Congress is considered one Democrat and the rest Republicans. To me, that's not bipartisanship, but this project was. So put the 9th on your calendar. It's going to be a big event. I believe our Tim Stewart and Ryan Levitt are also going to be here the day before. I'm planning to have us all get together and then perhaps have a dinner, a big dinner. So I'll keep you posted on that when they get here and the timing, but would love for you guys to meet with them personally so you can get a sense of what they're doing for us. And lastly, so I've been to every museum and everything that you could possibly do, except the Spy Museum, because it's too expensive. It's not free. But this time, Jason and I had a couple hours to spare in between meetings, and we were having lunch, and we looked across the street, and there was the post office, this big post office building, and there's a museum in the post office. So I'm like, hey, let's go to the post office museum. I've never been there before. It was fascinating. There's, you could get any kind of stamp. I wanted to get the ladies the Ruth Bainer stamp. but it was kind of expensive. So I got you all a little magnet. I was gonna get you something else, and Jason's like, no, give them the magnet. They can put it on the refrigerator. Otherwise, they're gonna throw that in a drawer and they'll never see it again. But it was a very interesting museum. If you're ever in Washington, I mean, it's fascinating to see how the Postal Service has evolved over the years and where we're going now, which is probably not even having a postal service anymore. But it was really interesting. We saw the old trucks that they used to use, and the dog Oni, the stuffed dog. There was a dog that used to travel around the country with the post office guys. I mean, sorry, you guys are looking at me like HOA could be insured this meeting, but it
Keep
was
going.
it was good. It was a great way to spend an hour and a half of time. Glad we did it. Anyway, enjoy your gift. I always bring you something when I come back from Washington.
Thanks.
You guys look so excited.
I'm excited. I can't wait to get home.
But look on there. Okay, the one thing you will see camp on the far left, it's the inverted Jenny. You want to tell the story about the inverted? Did you watch that one?
I did watch it.
Yeah.
So that airplane is supposed to be the other way, and the first
Upside down.
the first plate they did, they printed it upside down.
Ooh.
And then one guy in BC he was like the first person at the post office to buy a sheet of stamps because he bought them, and it came out and it was upside down. And the postal service was like, "You got to give this that back." He's like, "Nope, I'm not giving this back to you." You're like, "You have to." I guess they harassed him for like months. "You got to give this back," and then he said no. And then he ended up selling it. And like moving out to the country, getting a farm,
Right.
having-
For $15,000, right? He bought his house.
Yeah.
He lived on
When
his
is it now?
retirement.
But then
No.
Yeah.
This one worth anything? On
That's
here?
the one. That's the
Yeah,
inverted
but
Jenny.
on here,
That one's worth.
Yeah, you could, sure.
they trade that in.
So anyway, it's kind of cool.
It was kind of cool. So, anyway, interesting stuff in Washington. A lot of interesting stuff. And that's it for me. So with that, ask for a motion to adjourn.
We don't have a close.
Oh, damn it. Do we have a close?
We do, it'll be quick.
All right, sorry. Gosh, I guess I
See,
wanted
I
to get out of here.
reminded you.
All right, we have two discussions in closed session. 9.1 strategy session to discuss the purchase, exchange, and lease of real property, and 9.2 strategy session to discuss reasonably imminent or pending litigation. Could I have a motion?
Go into closed session,
To discuss.
Discuss purchase, exchange, or lease of real property and or reasonably imminent or pending litigation.
Motion by Tawny, second by
I'll second.